Shalom Aleichem. We are up to chapter 23, per Kaf Gimel in Sefer Tanya. Um, for my introduction to chapter 23 is when I was Zoicha to go to Haditch about 12 years ago, something like that. Yeah. Which was completely I didn't, someone dragged me along and I didn't even know we were going there. And I thought we were going to Uman. And on the way, we took this 8 hour detour to Haditch. And anyway, went to Haditch. And all of a sudden, I'm by the kever of the Alter Rebbe. And I'm not a Tehillim guy. I really just can't do Tehillim. I can't do it. I don't. Anyway, so I went there. I'm standing there at the kever and I'm like, what do I do? So I learned Perek Kaf Gimel of Tanya. So Perek Kaf Gimel. Since then, I've got more connected to other chapters, but Kaf Gimel was one of the hardest chapters that I knew of in those days, and I cracked it. Hashem was mayor into me when I was in the post office in Ramat Eshkol, and I hopped it. And I mean, once I hopped it, you hopped it. But I remember exactly where I was, and I was in the post office, and I'm like sitting with my little Tanya, and I remember it's quiet, and I'm like, psh, like that, really loudly, and I slap my head, and I look around, and everyone looks at me, and I kind of didn't really know what to. I kind of like just put my head back down again. Um, so it's a very complex chapter. That is the keys. If we're Zocher to understand it, it's the keys to understanding a lot of stuff. So I'm just going to give it to you in context right now, okay? If you remember, we've said this many times, from chapter 18 to chapter 25 is a cohesive shlav in Tanya. Okay, it all works together. So chapter 18 and 19 basically says that you would give your life for God. Okay. Even if you don't live your life for God, you would give your life for God, meaning your innate Jewishness, your Pintele Yid, the Nefesh Elokis, the essence of your Nefesh Elokis, is absolutely godly and can't tolerate anything that isn't godly, and it would give itself up, it would give its life up for that. Okay, so once he established that you'd give your life up for God, yeah, then he spent chapters 20, 21, 22 explaining that there's nothing other than God. Anything that is not godly is false, meaning anything that claims its own Metzias, that has its own, the way the Rebbe calls it is a dava bifnei atzmoi. Anything that feels that it's a dava bifnei atzmoi, something unto itself, and that it doesn't exist in context of Hashem, that is false. That's Klippa and Sitra Achra, and our whole job is extracting ourselves from that insanity, delusion, prison, Klippa, whatever you want to call it. Yeah, we have to realize that we are cells in his body, so to speak. And that when a cell develops its own agenda, neged the agenda of the organism, lo aleinu, we know what that's called. Okay. That is what we are. It's like I was talking to my dad. There's the cell analogy. There's also the idea of somebody with like Parkinson's, or what's the disease where you lose your control of your limbs, yeah? Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, there's a bunch of these ones, yeah, where you start to lose your like, their hands are like this and they literally, you have to hold, yeah. That's the same idea as when we're a dava bifnei atzmoi, so to speak. Hashem is we're taking from him his mobility. We are stealing from him his self-expression. Our whole role in this world is to fight tooth and nail to align ourselves with his agenda and to realize that we have no agenda unto ourselves. We are not a dava bifnei atzmoi. Yeah, anything that that's it. So chapters 20, 21, 22 were spent basically explaining that in all using different analogies, moshalim, and and intelligent ways of understanding it. Okay. So now he plugs it back in. Chapter 23. So if we know that you'd give your life up for God, yeah, and there's nothing other than God. Now, chapter 23 is explaining what happens then when we do mitzvahs, meaning what happens when we align ourselves and Torah. What happens when we align ourselves with his agenda, Yisborach. Chapter 24 is explaining what happens when we align ourselves with the mitzvahs lo saseh, which means against his agenda. Okay, and then chapter 25 is a kind of a secum of the whole, is a summary of the whole thing together. Okay, so what we're basically discussing in chapter 23 is mitzvahs and Torah, and it breaks very cleanly into two sections. The first section is mitzvahs, and the second section is Torah. So let's start outside and then we'll try and see it inside. Like I always say, the greatest obstacle to Tanya is the language. It's almost impenetrable, and you can only take it when you have a teacher. And then once you've learned the ideas as a summary and as a revision guide, the Sefer itself is unparalleled. It's unbelievable. Everything is there in fine detail once you've been given the code. But before you've been given the code, it's almost useless. Um, so the the relationship between Hashem and his mitzvahs is the same relationship, Shalom Gabriel, is the same relationship between you and your body without Parkinson's, Chas v'shalom. Yeah, a healthy functioning person, your hand moves. Now, what I always used to think, because this is what the secular mind tells you, is that your brain decides it wants to move your hand, and you send signals from your brain somehow through your arm, and your hand does that, yeah. But that's not how it is. That's not how it is. Your Rotson moves your hand. I don't know how I'm doing that, and I don't understand how it's going to work. And maybe you could poke somewhere in my head, and my finger will go like that, yeah. But the way that we understand it through Tanya, the lens of Tanya, the way I understand it is that it's your Rotson moving your goof. You want to speak, yeah, your mouth, he doesn't say this here, he says this in Shaykh Muna, but your mouth creates, in Igeres HaKodesh, your mouth moves in a way that you can't do this with your mouth. Do you realize the precision of how your mouth is moving and your tongue and your lips and the air that's being used? Do you realize the precision that's necessary for me to be speaking words? It's insane. It's really amazing when you think about, if I just, what's someone with a lisp? Yeah, they can't, a lisp, meaning they can't move there's some teeny little action that they can't do that makes them sound different. And like my boys can't say thief, yeah, because in Hebrew there's no f sound. So they're not used to th, yeah. And English people can't say chesed because there's no ch in English, because these are all crazy precise ways of moving your. It's like you think, you think that um if you miss out an I in diamond, you flick over the A and the I, Shmuel Diamond at gmail.com, yeah? If you flick around the A and the I, yeah, you're like, what's the big deal? And then there's the drasha, a teeny little difference means you don't get the email, yeah? But that's Kleinigkeit compared to the precision of speaking and the precision of moving your body. So basically, what the Rebbe is saying is that there is no break whatsoever between your Ratzon and your goof. The way the Ratzon is able to handle the goof, there is absolutely no broken telephone whatsoever. It's like in a sense, it's funny, it's like telepathic. Like I've had, yeah, we've spoken about this before. There's different kinds of bittle. Yeah. There's the bittle of the mind. Remember the bittle of the brain, where the brain's got its own agenda, and when you want it, it's there for you. Then there's the bittle of the heart, which the heart pumps, but it's pumping in context of your body, so it's great. And then there's the bittle of the ava of your hand, for example, that when there's no need for it, it just hangs there, and then it's working for you. Yeah. So there's a deeper level of bittle, which gets confusing because this is really the bittle of the ava. Um, See, there's the bittle of the Markova, yeah, which is your car. Look outside your window and you'll see your car hopefully is just sitting there. Yeah. Yeah. When you get in it, it calls to action. But
Well,
the
it's a test where it might pick you up.
now that I was just about to say that, yeah, or the Waymo cars, yeah. What about in Waze, the Waze when you get in your car, like at certain times, it knows where you're going. It says, "Are you heading here?" And you're like, "Oh wow, that's so nice of you." Yes. Yeah. That's a higher level of bittle. That's a level of anticipation. I've had that with photography with assistants in the past where they've become so good where they don't just do what you say, they're there before you tell them to be there. They anticipate it. Mayor's nodding his head, he knows it. Every now and again you get one of these guys who, and then the minute they like that, then they become your competition because they go so good. But they anticipate. There's like a telepathy there. So I'm just trying to get this is his boniness, yeah. Trying to build a relationship between you, your Watson is you, between you and your goof. You're not your goof. Everyone knows they're not their well, hopefully we know we're not our goof, but look how close you are to your goof. This is really a really, really foundational Indian to grasp, yeah. You're so close to your goof that you could mistakenly think you are your goof. And you can't separate yourself from your goof. Okay, once we've got that really clear, now we're in a good place to start to understand Perek Kaf Gimel. Everyone's clear right now what we've done? We've just shown you how close you are to your goof. Everyone can do this. You should do this. Like we just take it for granted, yeah? We just take it for granted that you can do this. You know what I'm saying? What is that? How comes I can, watch a concert pianist play watch a what's a concert pianist playing the piano or a master guitarist play the guitar, yeah? And that isn't the mind. It's not the mind doing it. That's so beyond the mind. That's the Ratzon. The Ratzon's doing it. That's it. And one of the things we have, Baruch Hashem, we have a lot of children now, yeah. I'm a professional father, and our oldest is now 20, and my youngest is like 9 months, yeah. And I'm getting to watch my 9-month-year old really grow up, meaning I've when you have a little baby, you have a baby, he's cute, he does it. Oh, look, he's like smiling now and this and that. But once you've gotten over that, oh, look at that thing, yeah, and you can just study them. Yeah, I mean, I've been studying Akiva Menachem now for 9 months, yeah, and I've been watching his Ratzon get mispashate deeper and deeper into his body. So at the beginning, he's just like that, can't do anything, yeah. And then eventually he starts to work out that he can like do stuff with his hand. And then he can actually wave, yeah. And then he can start to put two and two together and he can start to like commando crawl. And that's his Ratzon being mispashe out into his goof, into the deeper extremities of his goof. And it doesn't stop, by the way, just as a side point, it doesn't stop at your goof. A powerful person, maybe by definition, his or her Ratzon spreads out of their goof into the goof of other people and into machinery and into etc. Yeah. But that's maybe the definition of a powerful person is the ability to push his Ratzon or her Ratzon out of their Dalad Amos of their body into other people's bodies. You know, as a cycle. Um, okay, so let's jump into the text. Perek Kaf Gimel, it's page Kaf Ches. Okay, the Im Kol Hanau and everything that we've explained above about the unity of God. Yuvan Hatev V'Toyesefas Bir Masha Amu B'Zoya Doiras Kosh Baruch Hu L'Chad. That we're going to understand what it means when it says that Hashem and His Torah are kulu chad. B'Tikunim Perushay the Ramach Bikudin Inan Ramach Ivrin Damalka. And in the Tikunim, it explains this by saying that the 248 mitzvahs are like the 248 limbs of the king. Now, Yitzi was when I gave that shir on Leil Shavuos and that the Sephardi place in the 770 building, yeah. So this is really what we're talking about here. You've got you had a hakdama to this, okay? But we're going to be discussing the difference between Oiraisa v'Kudsha Baruch Hu Kol Echad, that Hashem and the Torah are one. Not that the Torah is God, but Hashem and the Torah are one, and Ramach Pikudin in Ramach Ivrin Damalka, and that the 248 mitzvahs are like the 248 limbs of the king, meaning they're like his body. So what's the difference between the Torah, which is one with God, and the mitzvahs that are like God's body? Okay? And the way we can explain that, again, this opens up so many. Understanding this Perek in Tanya deeply will give you keys to understanding the Kisvei Ari in a way that only people who understand this deeply can appreciate. It gives you a very deep insight into what Ze'ampin is. When it says Hashem and His Torah are one, you could think of the Torah, so to speak, as Hashem's personality. And when we say that Hashem and the mitzvahs are like the king and his body, yeah, well, that's what the mitzvahs are like. The Torah is like his personality, where he's really enmeshed. They're they're inseparable. Yeah, they're enmeshed within one another. Whereas the limbs of the body, they are, although they are, like I just explained, incredibly close, they're a little bit further. They're a little bit further than the Torah. Your body is a little bit more distinct from you than your personality is. And understanding this chiluk is what was going to give us the keys to understanding this chapter. Okay. Lefi, mitzvahs hem pnimius rotzna elyon. The mitzvahs are pnimius rotzna elyon. The chefsoi ha'emiti. Okay, please, someone explain to me what that means. The mitzvahs are pnimius rotzna elyon. The chefsoi ha'emiti. Unpack those words, please, someone.
It's not a means to an end, it's an end in itself.
Perfect. Thank you, Gabriel. They are his panemius rotzon and his actual desire. He wants mitzvahs. Does he want a world? No, he doesn't want a world. He wants mitzvahs. But you can't have mitzvahs without a world. Okay, poof, there's your world. So we can have mitzvahs. So does he want a world? No, he wants mitzvahs. That's his, and this is where the Rebbe says this, Panemius Rotzen Elyoin. That's where we get the idea of panim al panim, the inner relationship, a relationship as an end unto itself. Panemius Rotzen Elyoin v'chefseha emiti, and his true desire. But hamalubash b'chol ha'elamas elyoin v'tachtoinim. But it's that true will enclosed within the things of this world, and this is very dark, so stay with me, okay? We're gonna have to work for this. To give them life, because all of their life and their shefa talui b'maisa mitzvah shel tachtonim kanoida. They are dependent on the maisa mitzvah of the world below, of our world. V'nimsa shemaisa. I'm going to unpack this. B'ezrat Hashem. Shenimsa v'nimsa, and it comes out shemaisa hamitzvahs, the actual act of the mitzvah. Okay. Not the chomer of the mitzvah, the concept of the mitzvah. Hu levush panimi lepnimius rotzna elyon. It is a garment, an inner garment to the pnimius rotzna elyon. Shemamaisa zeh nimshach or v'chiyas rotzna elyon is labesh bo'ilamus. That through this Maisa Mitzvah, the Chiyas, the Rotzen, the Chiyas Elyoin, the Rotzen Elyoin, and the life of Hashem becomes enclosed within this world. L'chein it nikra ivrid de malka. That's why they're called the limbs of the king. Derech Moshel. Kmo ivrid gufa adam heim levush lenafshay ubatelim legamre elehem mekol v'kol ki miyad she'oile b'ritzoyno shel adam lifshay yodo, because the minute that the man wants to put out his hand, lifshay yadoi, or raglo, his leg, hey nishmoz le'ritzoyno taketh miyad bli shum tzivui v'amir lehem. They listen immediately and mamash immediately without any kind of command or speech to them. There is no break. It's not like you say to your hand, go out, and your hand goes out. It's the rotzon of your hand wanting to go. You need to do this. You see, it's not like you go, I want my hand to go out, and it goes out. It's the rotzon for your hand to go out, and the hand going out is one and the same thing. One and the same thing. There's no waiting whatsoever. Mamash. Rather, at that moment, as it goes up into your mind, it goes out. Okay, let's unpack this. You've got the actual esrog, yeah? You've got the flesh of the esrog and the lulav, v'chule, yeah? And then we've said many times, you've got the flesh of the esrog and lulav, and then you've got the time of Sukkos, and the place isn't so relevant. You could use anywhere. And you've got the koyach of the Jew. You've got the Jew shaking them, yeah? All of that stuff allows the concept of the mitzvah of Arba Minim to exist. The concept of the it's not the right word. It's not the concept. It's the mitzvah. The mitzvah, you realize, like, if there wasn't, let's just say, I don't know if fruit can become extinct. Yeah, I'm sure it can. But let's say that esrogim became extinct. There's no more esrogim. Chas v'shalom. Well, that would mean that the mitzvah of Arba Minim is bottle. Of course it's not bottle. There's the mitzvah of Arba Minim. Okay, you can't do it now. But the mitzvah of Arba Minim is bigger than the flesh of the esrog. It's bigger than the wood of the lulav, etc. It's not conceptual. It's ruchni. It's something ruchni. It's mufshat from gashmias. It doesn't. The actual mitzvah itself is without gashmias. Yeah. So when I take the Arba Minim on the 15th of Tishrei, and I'm Jewish, yeah. Now that thing that would still have existed if esrogim became extinct now gets to actually come into the world. Is that clear? I told you have to work for this. Okay, we'll do it. B'ezrat Hashem. There's. I've told you this funny story about the street cleaner in London, Trig from Only Fools and Horses. after 15 years, very, very long story short, he's a funny guy, a very simple guy. He gets like a mishabeach from the municipality, from the council for 15 years of service of a street cleaner, and he stands up with this really new looking broom, and he says, "And I just want to say thank you to my broom. I've had this broom for 15 years." And everyone's like, "Wow, 15 years is amazing." He says, "Yeah, I've changed the head over 20 times, and this is like about the 15th stick." Maybe that was just English humor from the 80s, or you know it already, yeah? So the point is that there's the concept of the broom, and then there's the pieces of the broom. That's lahavdil, the same with a mitzvah. There's the concept of the mitzvah, and then there's the actual mitzvah taking place in this world. So what he calls the Maisa mitzvah, that's what we're talking about as the that level deeper, the level that's deeper than the actual physicality of the mitzvah. There's the actual gashmius of the mitzvah, but then there's the Maisa mitzvah, which is what becomes enclosed within the gashmius of the mitzvah. And the relationship that Hashem has to that Maisa mitzvah is the same relationship that you have to your body. And then we could go a step further and then say, and therefore, and this is what we said on Leil Shavuos, is that the physicality of this world is called Hashem's clothing, his actual clothing. So we have our clothing, we have our body, we have our personality, and then we have us. It's concentric layers. So the actual world is something separate from Hashem. I know we say that it's the same, yeah, which is true, but we also say it's something separate. Like Bria Yetzirah Sia are creation. They are separate from God. Whereas Atzilus is not separate from him, but the physicality of this world is something separate from God. So and how we're speaking right now. So that's like his clothing. The Maisa mitzvah, the correct configuration of time, place, energy, and matter, which creates the halachas of the mitzvah, that is the body that animates the clothes. And then just while we're here, I'll just add in, and what is the Maisa mitzvah an expression of? Meaning not the actual physical act of the mitzvah, but the conceptual act of the mitzvah. What is that an expression of?
Would it be Hashem's Ratzon?
Right now we're talking saying the word Ratzon in general. So specifically, you're right. But what is if the Maisa mitzvah is his body, then what is it that the Maisa mitzvah is actually an expression of? That's the Torah Kedosha. That's called the Torah. The Torah is the panemius of the mitzvah. The mitzvah is you take a lulav, the concept of taking a lulav, not actually taking the lulav and the esrog, the concept of taking the lulav and the esrog, and the Torah is the instructions, is the gilui of that. So the Torah is like his personality. That's even closer to him. We're jumping ahead. This is a spoiler alert. The Torah is him, really. That's what I mean. Kudsha Baruch Hu Raisa Kuluchad. That's really him. That becomes enclosed in the concept of the mitzvah. That becomes enclosed in the gashmis of the world. So now what's closer? The Maisa mitzvah or the Torah? When we're learning Torah or when we're doing the mitzvah, which one's closer? So we're closer to the Matzil, to Hashem himself. We're closer to Hashem Yisborach when we're learning Torah than we are when we're doing the Maisa Mitzvah. I'll give you a nice example of this that people can relate to. Let's say your dad likes to watch you dance. The reason I'm choosing dance is because it's you'll understand once I finish the noshel. Let's say your dad likes to watch you dance. That's his thing. Yeah? He's got this thing. He likes to watch you dance. Yeah. So he puts his hand around you and he tells you, you know, I love it when you do that little twirly thing, and then when you do the splits, then when you get up and you do the crab, and then and then when you do the little jump thing with your legs up, yeah, and then you do the clapping thing, and he's telling you all these things that he loves, and you feel very close to him. He's letting you in. He's telling you about himself. Yeah? So you feel very close. But what's he getting from that? What's he getting from telling you about how he loves to see you dance and explaining in fine detail about the moves that he loves to see? What's he actually getting from that? He wants to see you dance. So learning Torah is comparable to Hashem telling you really what does it for him. But mitzvahs are doing that for him. So when in the moshel, yeah, your dad's sitting there telling you, I love when you do this, I love when you do that, and you're sitting there feeling extremely close, yeah? Now he's told you everything, now it's time to get up and dance. Well, you have to be really present and to be really thinking for you to feel close to him while you're dancing. It could even be that he's going into another room and he's videoing it, that he's going to watch it another day, yeah? How close do you feel to him when you're actually doing the dance? You definitely don't feel as close as when he's got his arm around you telling you how he loves to see you do this, to see you do that, to see you do this. But where's his pleasure? His pleasure is in watching you dance. See, there's also the mitzvah of learning Torah, so it blends in with that as well. There's the mitzvah of learning Torah. Okay, but we're just trying to get this clear, yeah. So this is the inyan. Is when are you closer to Hashem? When do you feel closer to Hashem? When you closer to Hashem is when you're learning Torah. It's like Hashem whispering into your ear what he loves, what he hates, how he's thinking, showing you his intelligence, showing you his ratzon, etc. Yeah, but actually doing the Maisa Mitzvah, that is you might not feel so close because there's a separation between you and him. There's the actual Maisa Mitzvah, but that's really what he wants. So that's Lilmod Almanas La'asos. Then you got everything. I'm listening. That's why Lilmod Almanas La'asos is so hailig, is the most hailig madrega, because it's Rebbeinu Shalom. I'm listening. Tell me, and he's telling you what you want, and you're getting that feeling of closeness of how important you are to him and how necessary you are, etc. Yeah, but it's only Almanas La'asos. It's not so that I feel important and that I feel close and that I feel necessary. That's just a side point. It's so that I can perform your ratzon, because it's all about you. It's not about me. Is that making sense a little bit? A bit? Okay. So let's call it, let's stop here. But that is the idea that we didn't even talk about. I kind of gave you a spoiler, but that is the idea, the concept behind the relationship of Hashem to his mitzvahs. Even he's not talking about here about Dira Tachtonin. That's later on, yeah. He's not talking about that he wants that. He's just talking about the mechanics. The actual Maisa Mitzvah, when you're doing the Maisa Mitzvah, you are further from Hashem than when you're learning Torah. That's what this parak is discussing. But later on, we're going to see that the Ma'aser Mitzvah is the Ikka, because that's really what he wants. So you could, and that's a great argument to have. These are the kind of arguments we should be having as Jews. Like, what's more important, learning Torah or doing mitzvahs? That's a real conversation that Jews should be having all the time. Yeah, what mitzvah's better? What mitzvah's bigger? Yeah, what should we be learning? How should we be learning? These are questions that we should be discussing, all the time. They should be plaguing us in a positive way. But when we're doing the Ma'aser Mitzvah, because it's his Ratzon already moving away from his intelligence, so to speak. It's gone past his mind into, so to speak, his body. Yeah, so there's a separation. But the separation, remember, by the way, the separation is insanely minuscule, to the point where my Ratzon and my hand, it's not like I command my hand and my hand listens. It's that my Ratzon and my hand are absolutely bound up with each other, but they're not kuluchad. There's the movement of my hand and my Ratzon, but it's not like his relationship to the Torah, where he and the Torah is one. So we'll finish just by saying this. And this is just a very important thing the visual, and you can chazar it just with this visual, is your clothes are the physicality of this world. You don't need your clothes. Your clothes aren't you. They are something separate from you. This world, the physicality of this world, and the way we're explaining it right now, is something separate from the Ribono Shel Olam. Enclosed within the world, which causes the gashmius of this world to move, is the Ma'aser Mitzvah. That's, so to speak, his body. Enclosed within the Ma'aser Mitzvah is his personality, and that's the Torah. And enclosed within the whole thing is him himself. So if we can keep that vision in our mind, and if you don't have this clear right now, I would put this. I'd be surprised if you would have this clear right now. This is real. This is serious learning. This is very intense. Tanya. This is a Chabad Chasidus at its, in one of its most primal forms. But yeah, so we'll keep working. We've got a lot more pages to do with this, and B'ezras Hashem will get clearer and clearer. Yeah.
Thank you. Well, you kept using the words Maisa and concept. You use those interchangeably, right?
Yeah.
And that's, for me, that was throwing me off. I'm not really understanding Maisa and concept. Those are two different things in my head. Maisa is more doing. Concept is just a thought, is just a concept. It's not an actual action. So but you kept using them. So I threw me off a little bit.
So we are in this case, we're using them interchangeably, meaning there's the actual this isn't the Ma'aser Mitzvah. Imagine this is a lulav esrog. Yeah, this is my lulav and esrog. Yeah. The Ma'aser Mitzvah is the Ma'aser Mitzvah is something ruchni, meaning without all of these pieces. Yeah, there's the Ma'aser Mitzvah. Now I'm actually doing it. Yeah. That's the gashmias. That's the actual configuration of everything coming together. But there's the concept of the mitzvah. That's what we're calling the Ma'aser Mitzvah. It's a davar ruchni. It's the concept of the mitzvah.
So it's not actually doing it.
It's what
you don't have to do it. It's just the concept. It's just there.
It's what becomes look. I mean, what is this? What is this? I've got my Arba Minim here, and I'm shaking it. What is that?
That's a mitzvah on Sukkot, sir, yeah?
Wait. But look, we've got a piece of fruit, a stick, and a couple of twigs. And my hands, and my energy, and the right time.
Mitzvah.
That's the Ma'aser Mitzvah. Meaning, otherwise, we've just got a bunch of different physicality. So
it's not a concept. You actually have to do it.
Well, it's the doing it is the Ma'aser Mitzvah becoming expressed in this world. So is there a Ma'aser Mitzvah without the mitzvah? Like I said, without the lulav and esrog, yeah? Well, there is no Maisa Mitzvah, meaning that it doesn't come out into the world, but there's the concept of the mitzvah. It's hard. The language is difficult to what the Rebbe here is talking about. The Maisa Mitzvah is what becomes enclosed in the time, the space, the energy, and the matter, the physicality of the Arba Minim, the time of Tishrei, my physical, my energy, etc. All of that together is called the Maisa Mitzvah. So the Maisa Mitzvah is something separate from the physicality. It's like matzah. This is a nice analogy. Is matzah a mitzvah on Leil Pesach? Is
Yes.
a mitzvah?
If you yeah.
No.
Oh, Michael said yes also. I just want to put that on the record.
Eating matzah. A Jew eating matzah on Leil Seder is a mitzvah. Matzah itself it's just crackers. If your next door neighbor, if Michael's next door neighbor, is eating it, I think you have a goy. You live next to a goy? Okay, whatever. If whoever lives next to a goy, yeah, whoever's living next to a non-Jew, if he eats matzah on Leil Seder, he's just having crackers. There's, and not particularly tasty ones, expensive and not tasty. Yeah, the matzah is not a mitzvah. The Maisa Mitzvah is the concept of the Jew eating matzah on Leil Seder. So is that so you can read about that in the Torah. Okay, we'll live here. To be continued. To be continued. We'll get this clear. I told you it's very, very subtle. It really is subtle. This for me was years of, literally, I'm not joking, years of listening to tapes from Rav Manis. And then I remember in the post office that one day it clicked. This is what he's talking about. That it's talking about a level below, a level beyond, that's within the Gashmias. And the Torah is a level within that. And he's a level within that. And it's very subtle. Okay, Bezrat Hashem, we'll get there.